and welcome to another episode of Practically Political. I'm Dave Spencer.
And I'm Carrie Sheffield.
All right, Carrie, as you would say, let's get right to it. I would love to get your thoughts on Balloon Gate, as I'm loving to call it. Is this just a bunch of hot air? It seems like a lot of Republicans have said this is a huge act of Chinese aggression, but didn't it happen 3 times under the Trump administration? I mean, what's going on here? What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, we don't actually know how many times it did or did not happen under the Trump administration. And if it did, it wasn't discovered until after the fact. So that wasn't a failure on the Trump administration's part to respond if the surveillance just wasn't there. But I do think that this was a very deliberate act by the Chinese government. I don't buy it for 1 second when they say it was a weather balloon that got off track. Now that's lies. And I think what's disappointing is that the Biden administration allowed this spy piece of technology to fly across the whole country, basically. And it was tracked above a very sensitive airspace out west with some very, sensitive assets for the U.S. government and intelligence services. So it was, and I understand they said, oh, well, we couldn't shoot it down because of XYZ. There are ways they could have done it. There are lots of open fields. Maybe this is a coastal elite out of touch thing. There are wide open spaces in Montana or even Kansas. Or you're saying it had to get all the way across the country to South Carolina before you could shoot it down. I just don't buy it. And I think it made Biden look weak. It made our country look like a joke. And it was a way of the Chinese government to really poke our eye. And I will give credit, Dave, mark my words, to the Biden administration for doing some strong measures as it relates to China when it comes to doing exercises in the Philippines and, doing some measures with Japan and Australia to be more proactive against China. So I will give them credit for that. And I think that's part of why the Chinese did this, because they wanted to have a response in kind. So that's my take. What about you, Dave?
Well, I'm a little au contraire on this. I mean, first of all, as far as shooting it down, Biden gave the order on Wednesday and he told the military to do it. Now, could it have been done over Alaska? Yes, but it left a 7-mile wide trail. So if one person had been killed and if they shot it down, you would have been hearing, oh my God, come on, 3 times before we just let it float out or whatever. So I don't buy that. But as far as it goes, here's my theory. I think we're giving the Chinese way too much credit once again. I think that they have so many problems going on right now that they would not have this huge, well laid out plot to spy. I don't know. I still haven't heard what advantages a balloon gives you that a satellite doesn't. I think, people are flying over our military installations all the time. That's why most of the sensitive stuff is underground. I also think it was a mistake for Blinken to cancel his trip. I think this old saying in politics, and I know I'm in the minority on this, you shouldn't let a crisis go to waste. I think that's exactly when you want to reset the relationship. And then plus the whole thing doesn't make sense because China's been trying to reset the relationship. They are the ones that said, let's put a floor on this. They invited Blinken to come. So why would they shoot themselves in the foot by doing this? So I think this was just disorganization on their part. And it just went awry, and I think there was an overblown reaction to whether when we should have shot it down and Biden being weak. But I have to say, the thing that was most disquieting about this whole thing for me, Carrie, was to see so many people on TV criticize the U.S. This is Chinese think we're in decline and they're poking a finger in our eye. That's what the Marco Rubios of the world are saying. And it just gets back to this attacking the institutions, whether it's the FBI. And conservatives used to be the ones that would defend our institutions. And now they're the ones that seem to be attacking them. And it's really disquieting to think that, everyone thinks this is U.S. weakness rather than Chinese incompetence or disorganization. So.
Well, I do agree. I agree that Chinese incompetence is real, and that's part of why we had this horrible COVID pandemic.